Welcome to Fiction Factory, the official podcast of Get Dangerous Games, creators of the Shadows TTRPG. I'm Scott, one of the designers for Shadows, and in this episode we're continuing our series in which we explore the many different character archetypes found in the gritty and dangerous world of Night City. If you missed our last episode, I recommend going back and giving it a listen. We took a good look at the Arcanist, which is on the magical side of the spectrum when talking about character archetypes. This episode, we'll be looking at my favorite character archetype, the Cyborg, which is a human who has fully embraced the mechanical side of Shadows. Now, the Cyborg is a classic cyberpunk with innumerable examples across all forms of media, whether books, movies, video games, or tabletop games. In this episode, we'll look at the Shadows version of the Cyborg, discuss their unique qualities, how they fit into Night City, and give you an idea of how you can experience better living through technology. Whether you're a seasoned tabletop RPG player or new to the genre, we think you'll find something to enjoy in this series. So buckle up, grab your dice, and get ready to explore the shadows of Night City. So let's talk Cyborg. Humanity in Night City is in a state of flux. Cybernetics offers some options, and the need to be the king of the hill, even if that hill is garbage, is what rules the streets of Night City. Originally, cybernetics was a way for people to curb a deficit. Now it's seen as a means to achieve something that the human body seems incapable of managing on its own. While not all those who choose to run with cybernetic limbs try to do it to get ahead, it's become easy to replace limbs when they're lost. Implants can make a man more intensive in battle. There are some features in cybernetics that even allow you to hear at great distances, zoom in on a specified target, detect listening devices, connect to the link with ease and without the use of cables, and there's even a means to communicate with the computing systems of any terminal you like you're having a conversation with someone on the street. It's a brave new world out there, and those who are willing to drop a pound of flesh to get into that world seem to have the edge. It's hard to really pinpoint what makes a standard cyborg different from a human with a prosthetic. The reality is that cyborgs are inherently human. They're built upon the framework of a typical human, but of course they might be a little taller, wider, heavier, due to the augmentations that they've received. One of the other defining characteristics of a cyborg when compared to a human with a prosthetic is the government-issued points of light that are hard-coded into each of their cybernetic components. Government-regulated light displays indicate to others, whether they're utility or military-grade hardware, that these have been placed in individuals, giving them some sort of cybernetic loadout, and letting the public know that the person they're dealing with is an advanced being of considerable danger. But when someone's electing to augment and modify their body to become a cyborg, they're making a commitment that is pretty much impossible to reverse. Some cyborgs start out as regular humans, replacing body parts that were naturally damaged or amputated due to an accident. Maybe someone gets in a car accident and they have to have their leg amputated, so they replace it with one. But because their insurance paid out a little higher, or they've got a little bit more cash to burn, they got a bit of a nicer leg that actually helps them run faster, jump a little higher. Unfortunately, this can get a little addictive, and those who start with one cybernetic component sometimes take steps to add more. Cyborgs tend to be those who are often looking for that next upgrade or improvement. And after each encounter you have as a player, as a cyborg, you may find yourself feeling the same way. Some tend to focus on tech, like I said, having the ability to listen in on others or zoom in with your sight can be really attractive. Others simply look to become the baddest thing that ever walked in Night City, able to take on gunfire and attacks that would level an ordinary mortal. Whatever your motivation is, be mindful, though, that as a character, you're retaining some semblance of humanity. Cyborgs start out as human, and they get the ability to purchase their augmentations as part of their archetype of being a cyborg. The budget that you get to run the gauntlet of augmentations is pretty simple. Based on the power level of the campaign that you start in, you'll have the chance to get a little extra cash and spend those credits to make your dreams come true. For the most part, the idea of getting a cybernetic limb is to get that boost in power. But depending on how much money you have, the cybernetic limb you have may look a bit janky. It may be very obvious to everyone around you that you lost your arm and you tried to replace it with a hunk of metal. Those who have a little more cash to burn can get something a little more sophisticated that at 20 feet might even pass as a real authentic flesh and bone limb. Getting something like a synthetic skin on your limb makes it a little bit more discreet, costs a lot more, but it may change the way that your character experiences the game world. When you're determining your starting wealth, in addition to choosing your wealth based on the starting table, on power level and everything, there are some other factors such as the wealthy advantage that give you an extra die to roll, or the poverty disadvantage, which give you one fewer dice to roll. So, for example, a street level character with the wealthy advantage would start with their base credits of 1,000 credits, and instead of rolling 1d10, they'd roll 2d10. However, the poverty level character would start out street level with 1,000 credits and not add any dice to it. You soon learn how quickly these expenses can add up, and you'll find yourself looking for ways to make more money so that you can add to your existing base and essentially level yourself up as a cyborg. So while others who live in Night City may get a chance to improve themselves by getting maybe an implanted digital watch that sits right under the surface of the skin, or like I said, a replacement using a prosthetic for a limb here or there, as a cyborg, you get a state-of-the-art neurocybernetic interpreter. This handy feature is essentially a module that's implanted directly into your brain, and it gives you ability to network your body into any cybernetics that are attached to it. This means you'll have access to all your parts, ports, and peripherals, much more control over the person who's got a prosthetic. However, the neurocybernetic interpreter, or the NCI, does not play well with ether and arcane resonance, so there may be times when you will have to choose between a magical or a mechanical benefit. There are a lot of chances when you're playing as a cyborg to upgrade yourself, and this could be taking an upgrade off of your standard upgrade delivery system using one of the established cybernetic corporations, or this could be something that you maybe made in a back alley, black market, gray market sort of deal. Either way, every cybernetic component that you add costs money. You have to start out by purchasing the NCI, and that lets you then augment yourself by adding other components to it. The two different kinds of things that you'll be looking at are implants that then let you have implant enhancements, and replacements that let you have replacement enhancements. So let's say that you want to have a cybernetic hand. This means replacing the hand itself. The hand has got to be removed before you can add something mechanical to it. So there are 3 different tiers that you have to choose from. This could be a tier 1 prosthetic, which is functional just like a hand, and maybe lets you add 1 or 2 things to it. And then you've got all the way up to your military grade, where you can have tools and weapons that are being used. So you kind of think of each of your limbs as having between 1, 2, or 3 as your augmentation level. You have your kind of consumer grade replacement, and then your utility grade, and then your military grade. Now, the trick behind all of this is, like I said, you've got to pay for it. So in our book, we've got some example starting packages that you can look at. If you're a street level character with a budget of 1,800 credits, you might be able to get a neurocybernetic interpreter, maybe a comlink, a booster, and an adrenochrome. The booster lets you inject battle drugs, essentially, straight into your body. It's like a port that you'd use for cancer meds, for example. But adrenochrome is an example of a cybernetic drug that amplifies your reflexes. So if you're familiar with Bane from the Batman series, he's walking around like a normal beefed up human, and then he can kind of activate and plunge his extra chemicals into his body, giving him increased strength, speed, and all those things. As a cyborg in Shadows, you have the ability to do much the same thing. If you're starting out with a heroic level character, however, maybe you've got a credit budget of 4,000 credits. This means you can get that interpreter just like normal, comlink, booster, adrenochrome, all that stuff that the street level guy has, but maybe you get that arm replaced. and you've got some pop-up blades. So going back to that kind of comic book analogy, not only are you Bane, but now you're also Wolverine because you've got claws that pop out of your arm that you can use in combat, that you can't be disarmed, that are always at the ready, and they are vicious and deadly. So even if you don't get everything that you're looking for at the start of the game, there are plenty of ways for you to make cash. You could get a job, rob a bank, gamble, salvage combat zones for parts, and in some cases, you might even be able to find a sponsor to help raise fund and get you the augmentations that you need. But one thing to remember when you're buying these augmentations is to make sure you pay your bills on time. If you don't have the credits up front to pay for something and you've got it on loan, then you got to make sure you're making those payments, or you could wake up one day for someone repoing your parts. That's the last thing you want as a character. When we're looking at all of the different augmentation parts that are available to a cyborg, we've got implants, replacements, we've got some added features that you can tack on, and we'll go over a few of those. And then we've got the big one, which is full body augmentations. So when we're talking about implants, we're looking at things that are implanted into your body that connect to your NCI. And these are small things that kind of add on to your quality of life. So this could be a tracker, so basically giving yourself GPS so that others can find you. You could have a comm link, which is inserted near the ear and hinge of the jaw. So basically, instead of carrying around a walkie-talkie or a phone or something like that, you can just talk as if you're on an active call. Then we've got boosters, like I said, similar to like a cancer port. This is something that's installed in you that allows you to then install chemical battle drugs and things like that. Then you've got scrubbers, which are built-in filters that allow you to breathe air even if there's toxic gas present. And then you've got other things that can add on, like an ID tag or a sim link, things like that, ocular implants, auditory implants that improve your sight and vision and your communication spectrum. I mentioned battle chems before and adrenochrome. This is one that gives you a +3 bonus to reflex and body for 5 minutes, and it lets you ignore pain. The problem is, once you come off of it, you kind of get the reverse, and you've got a -3 penalty to all of your checks until that drug has properly been flushed from your system. Other things that cyborgs may get are nanosurgeons. These are little nanobots that are inside your body and run around just like your immune system and white blood cells, but they are healing you at a much faster rate. This gives you an extra healing rate of 1 health level per minute that the nanobots are active, the nanosurgeons are active, which if you have watched any of our live streams, you'll see how quickly health falls off and how long it takes to recover. Nanosurgeons are almost like werewolf and vampire level regeneration. It's pretty impressive. So next we'll look at replacements and enhancements. So if you're a cyborg, one of the big attractive features beyond kind of those passive implants that let you see a lot of the world and experience it differently are the ability to replace hands, arms, feet, and legs with kind of beefier cybernetic components. So for our hand, arm, foot, and leg augmentations and replacements, we basically have 3 different classes available to you. Class 1 is your basic limb replacement that has no available enhancements. This is what's most often used by children or most of those who are residing in Night City who just need that replacement to help them get back on their feet and improve their quality of life. The Class 2 is that utility enhancement that's primarily used for those who are working in heavy manual labor or technical occupations. There are some black market modifications you can get that will let you install small weapons like blades and tasers and things like that. But most likely, the type of utility enhancement that you'd see, like let's say for your hand, is like a built-in cutting torch to your finger or unitools. Imagine kind of that Inspector Gadget hand where you pop off your fingertip and you've got a screwdriver underneath, something like that. Maybe polygrips that are kind of this extra gripping surface that is applied to your palm and under your fingers that would give you kind of that Spider-Man like grip on things. And maybe if you have something larger, like an arm or a leg, a utility enhancement might be like an internal compartment, right? You can flip up your a little hatch on your forearm or on your thigh that might give you a little extra storage space. The class 3, and this is the big one for most of our players, will be that military grade enhancement. This can be publicly purchased, but anyone who purchases this must report and register their augmentation. If it is unregistered, it is illegal, and that's where those points of light that are hard-coded are really important. Military grade enhancements to your limbs will be things like a weapon mount on your arm, built-in taser, knuckle spikes, punch spike, pop-up blades, things like that I mentioned earlier. You might also have something absolutely bananas like a Mega Man type arm that's a laser cannon, where literally your arm would reassemble itself in the shape of a large laser cannon, and you would fire a beam weapon out of your arm. Like I said, the range of enhancements here are pretty tremendous. And the way that it works is really you select the body part that you're willing to replace and find someone who's willing to replace it for you, purchase the equipment that you need, and then undergo the procedure to get it done. It's not without drawbacks, though, because, as we know, amputation and loss of limb, even when it's intentional, can be devastating. Cyborgs have the potential of suffering from sanity loss and through something that's called fragmentation. There are those who have the ability to replace their limbs, especially when something is taken from them in an accident. They can get them replaced and it kind of restores them to where they were before, and maybe they're okay. Those who choose to remove a limb in order to replace it with a utility or military grade limb might have a harder time reconciling their mind and their body. The dysmorphia that comes in place can cause damage to your sanity, short-term damage. And the way that this works in a gameplay stance is that when you have maybe an implant or replacement done, you roll the dice. Let's say an implant is 1d4. Whatever that number comes up is the percentage of sanity that's lost when you add that body part on. So the danger here is that if you have too much done, or you have several things done quickly, too close together, your character may suffer a massive loss to sanity. And this is where we have fragmentation. In these cases, your character may have difficulty discerning between friend and foe, or staying tethered to our reality. For player characters, this could be really devastating because you might be in the middle of a fight and suddenly your NCI is no longer able to respond with the speed or accuracy that you're used to, and maybe the built-in beam weapon to your arm doesn't know where to point or doesn't know how to fire properly, and you might find yourself locking up in the middle of battle. So that's one of the vulnerabilities that cyborgs have. The recommendation, of course, is to make small changes over time and really to make sure that you get therapy, that you are right in your head before you start making changes to your body. There are many different ways for a character to have a therapeutic healing. This can be through actual, face-to-face or telehealth style interactions with a mental health professional in game, of course. There are other ways that you can, kind of tap yourself into an online program that your character can run through. So through all these different ways, as long as your character is role-playing it out properly, the actual effects of having their body parts replaced, it can be a really rich and fulfilling gameplay experience. The other big vulnerability that cyborgs can run into is electromagnetic pulse. Now, where this would have the biggest problem is if you had a full body augmentation, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the reality is here that cyborgs have mechanical additions to their bodies, and in some cases, they will be attacked with a weapon that causes an electromagnetic pulse. In many cases, the physical danger from an EMP burst is pretty small, but if you're running headlong into danger, confronting someone who knows you're a cyborg, they may be using weapons like stun batons, EMP grenades, even EMP tipped arrows that will specifically target cyborgs and try to shut down those body parts. If you are playing a cyborg and you're the victim of an EMP based attack, the cyber limb in question may be shut down for a round or two, depending on the severity of the attack. The real danger, though, would be if there was a headshot or a large enough attack against you that messed with your neurocybernetic interpreter. In that case, your body would literally lock up. You would be unable to move, and you would just be stuck there for the 10 to 30 seconds it takes to kind of unstick you. During that time, you're a sitting duck, easy for anyone to take you out or render you, completely useless by, putting you under some sort of lock and key with an EMP field. Thankfully, there are augmentations you can get that are EMP resistant, so some sort of warding that you can have added to your body. You can upgrade your limbs to military grade, which have a little bit of EMP shielding. And this will make it a little easier for your character to withstand an EMP-based attack. So I mentioned earlier, the real danger of an EMP attack is if you've got full body augmentations. We talked about battle chems, we talked about implants, we talked about limbs. But my favorite part about the cyborg is not all that stuff. It is the full body augmentation. What this is basically nanotech. You're injecting yourself with nanotech, and let's say the Power Man aug. This is a powerful, complicated procedure that takes months to complete, repeated injections, very intentional process by the player. This is a full body augmentation where nanobots go in and completely reinforce the bone and muscles in the subject's body. This allows for improved vascularity, increased muscular fiber, reinforced bone structure, enhanced reaction time, all of this stuff. The process is extremely painful, extremely costly, and you can really cause some damage, again, to your sanity. But the end result is that your body score will increase by up to 8 points. Your mobility will increase by up to 4 points, and you'll gain a layer of natural armor that you can have overlaying your skin. So even if you are essentially naked, you're not naked. You still have some protection via your natural armor. There are also some other full body augmentations, like the Sin Snap Aug, which improves reflex and body, and this is done through your NCI, improves your hand-eye coordination and things like that. The Iron Man Aug, this is basically improving your natural armor and making all kinetic and ballistic damage halved against your body. Basically, it's a dermal surgery that makes you more resistant to damage in general. And then there's the big regen augmentation. This is the big one, costs nearly 50,000 credits. It's the most useful and complicated of all full body augmentations, not something you're going to see at the lower levels of play. It's going to take 4+ months to complete. And basically, you become immune to poison and alcohol. The nanosurgeons in your body flush that out of your system immediately. Your normal healing rate is 3 times your body score per day. Bleeding naturally stops within 2 rounds. You have a permanent -3 to any pain levels that you would take. So it's going to take you dropping into your 4th health level before you even start noticing pain. This is fantastic. And like I said, this would be a massive undertaking. And if you're playing a cyborg character in heroic tiers and above, this is definitely something that you would be pursuing. When we look at the other elements of the cyborg, they are human, so they don't have any powers the same way that like an arcanist would have or that a vampire or werewolf will have. They're not supernatural creatures. They are humans with money to burn and machines to weld onto their bodies. As a result, they also choose from the human major milestone pool. So that's going to give them access to, essentially improved speed, strength, durability, things like that. better handling of weapons, all of those elements that a professional would have, that your regular human would have. The cyborg, again, they've just chosen to add body armor and other enhancements to themselves, but they're still human underneath all that. When you are looking into creating a cyborg character, I'll kind of finish with this. Look at the advantages and the skills. That's going to be where, as a human, you're really going to find that extra ability to enhance yourself that doesn't cost as much money, but it costs your improvement points. Any skills that you can get that are related to a technical nature will help you as a cyborg, because it'll let you kind of hack into other systems. It'll let you maybe even improve your own cybernetic systems, repair yourself, things like that, in ways that you wouldn't be able to if you had a lower tech score. On the advantages side, adding things like hard to kill, 9 lives, cyber prophetical, that's a real big one to add on. Cyber prophetical is an extremely costly advantage, but it means that your body is so attuned to cybernetics, you no longer suffer from sanity loss, which means your chance of fragmentation drops to 0. These are all ways that you can play as a cyborg and have a really enhanced experience. This is a little bit of metagaming, but really the cyborg is all about looking at those ways to improve themselves. And so if you're the type of player who, not necessarily a power gamer, but likes to always have that thing to improve in little incremental ways, the cyborg may just be the character for you. My favorite character is a cyborg, and I hope that you give it a chance when you're creating your characters for Shadows. If you want to learn more about our character development progress and watch some of our streams, I would recommend checking us out, twitch.tv/dcode, that's D33KODE. Check out our Shadows RPG website at shadowsrpg.com. And to learn more about the Get Dangerous crew and all the other things that we've got going on, which are podcasts and video series, even writings and other things to kind of explore the world of Shadows and Night City, you can check us out at getdangerous.net. So with that, good luck, have fun making your cyborg and taking over Night City. Take care.